Welcome to Galactic Guidance with Nellie Mack. This is our second podcast, and we will be talking about empathy with Noelle, my beautiful Native American friend. And so we're going to go ahead and get started right into this. This is recorded as a live video on Facebook, so there will be some interaction and us talking to like the peeps that are at our event. So just know that. And so let's just go ahead and get right in. And Noelle, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Noelle, you beautiful souls. I'm so glad to be here. I am a Hekoya Empath to begin with. I am a psychic medium. I am a Reiki master. I do past life regression therapy. I'm also a card reader. I do tarot, oracle, and I kind of touch everything. And I'm so glad to be here.
Amazing. So I really wanted to like talk about empathy because I'm seeing it come up a lot. Like I'm having people come to me and they're like, Nellie, what's wrong with me or what's going on? And I do feel like it's kind of like the first thing that people notice or even like research when they're like starting to awaken. Why am I feeling everybody else's feelings? Why am I picking up on this stuff, right? So I just kind of like I've been so fascinated watching you on Facebook, all the stories that you're telling about the things that show up and all of those things. And so I thought that we could just kind of talk about empathy in general, and then I'd love to like have you share some of your stories, and then maybe some practical ways that we both have found to help others who are like struggling with their empathy.
Totally. I totally understand that.
Yeah. So like being an empath, there's all different kinds. Like I saw this chart, it's like you can be a plant empath. Like you can pick up the feelings of plants. You can be, I don't know, you feel people's feelings or you sense the energy in the room. Like there's so many different things, and I feel like everybody's gift is different. Like it can be meshed pieces of all different ones.
Very true. I'm very, I don't even know what you would call it, but I am able to touch a lot of things also. I'm just not Hekoya. I'm not one that's like, then we'll get into that. That's kind of a different one, but I'm very well connected with animals. I think that was my first connection with empathy was animals. I have a fish called Phoenix. He was my beta. And he's my baby right now. And it was funny because I was talking to him right now and I sing him a song. And every time I light my sage, he gets excited. And I think this is amazing that this aquatic animal gets excited when he sees the sage. You know, he starts going around his tank. But I'm very, with plants, I totally get that too. My daughter's very a plant empath. She's very touches it. I have my plant, my aloe. He's right over here. His name is Sammy, and we talk a lot too. And I totally get that because people laugh at me. But once you get to know the properties and the healing entities of anything, like even stones, I'm a very collector of crystals and rocks and anything. I've been lucky to have people ask me all over the world, hey, what's this stone? You know, and I'm really able to touch it, or, you know, and I can hold it in my hand and just feel the energy from it. And honestly, I think once you're an empath and you realize your spot like that, you have empathy, it's just what direction you want to go in with it. Because you cannot just be just a plant empath at Hekoya, an animal. You know, there's such a wide range, and you could branch out to all of those. And it's all about finding your intuition and sitting with yourself and the energy, and then being able to connect with it.
Right. Yeah. Like I know like some people, like when they start out, it's like scary. Like I've had people tell me like they were sitting in a hospital or something, and then all of a sudden out of the blue, it was like everybody in the waiting room was telling them their story. And they're like, I don't understand this. I don't want this. So like I think learning, like first thing is like learning to shield yourself so that you're only getting the info that you feel comfortable at the time, you know, right? Like I think that's always like our first step. How do we shield?
That's very correct. Shielding is even now, I've been awake for about 4 years. And even to me, like I work at Trader Joe's right now, and I don't know if you've ever been at Trader Joe's, but the atmosphere of that grocery store is very, everyone's like, hey, can I help you? Hey, what are you eating today? Hey, how is your family? You know, and I realized that I've been surrounded by empaths, and that's a challenge to me in my life right now because I get so overwhelmed because even the customers that are come in that are very empathetic. And I looked around the other day and I said, I am in this huge empath nest. And then I was like, and for me, and being aware of it, I have to like I find myself showering a lot because the water takes away
Mhm.
and I shower with salt like a lot, you know, and that's a good
Right.
way to shield and clear your energy and your aura and I also live with two empaths that are very deep, you know, and I have to tell myself and lock myself in a room. Nope, I don't want to talk. I need to like ground. I find myself sitting on the floor, connecting, and it's been a challenge. I'm not gonna, some days I wake up and like even this is a good story. My coworker of mine, she's young, and we worked side by side bagging groceries, and I was there, and I wear a lot of stones, so like I wear like, you know, depending on the day and depending on the interaction, I choose the stone to wear. So as we were sitting there, she goes, I'm having a wonderful day at work and I'm jamming to the music. And all of a sudden I get so angry and I'm so mad. And I'm like, well, this is not me. And I'm just, my little coworker turns around and I go, I feel so angry right now. I don't understand why. And she goes, oh, that's me. I'm really pissed off right now. And I just said, that was a perfect example. And then when she told me that, I grabbed my shield. Like the best way to do it is like I close my eyes, pull the white light down from above, and just pull it all the way through my soul and out. And after that, it was gone. But it's true. Like she's like, it's like I just picked up her anger. And I was so mad for no reason.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that I guess that's always been my challenge because I've just realized lately that like some empaths they gather everything. So like me, I feel like I have to fix everybody and I have to make everybody happy and I have to be the one to do that. So like even like my genotype is as a gatherer and I've realized I was gathering everything and I was taking it and I was holding it for everybody. So that's why literally like I made that empath code that I sent you the other day because I was like, I've got to quit taking on everybody else's shit because it's too much for me. So I think even
That's
just
very
making the
true.
intention that we don't need to transmute everything for everybody and things like that. Just making your intention with that is even really important.
And I think you're very right now with that. Intention is extremely important. And a lot of people don't even know it. They hear that word and they don't even know or connect. And it took me a long time to be like, what is my intention? And then there's a lot of dialogue in my head that I've gone through over the years. So like, okay, well,
Mhm.
they say my intention is what I mean, and do I really mean that? And do I really want to say that, or do I, you know? And that goes along with a lot of, you know, another topic for another day. But that goes with getting to know yourself and getting deep down in, because you have to get down to those things that. What is that? Am I people pleasing? And those are coping mechanisms that we've done through the years, people pleasing and making everyone happy and making sure, like, why are they mad at me, and what did I do for them to, and just taking on that overwhelming energy that we are not meant to take. And that's
Right.
what the best thing we learn about is that we're not meant to take this. We are meant to pull it in, recognize it, and release it. back into the universe into a very positive energy. And
Right.
it totally, you know.
Yeah, definitely. So, so share with us kind of what, because you know you're a specific type of empath that most of us don't even understand. So can you explain that to us and what that means and kind of some of your experiences?
Sure. This was a time in my life. I was going through a lot of depression. I went through some alcoholism, and I was getting sober. So as I was getting sober, I was doing the 12 steps in AA, and I was getting to do basically with that. I loved so much, and if anyone's in that direction, you kind of find out that's like shadow work. So it's a very loving, very intense way of getting to know yourself and getting to understand yourself. So I spent about 4 months, and when I was trying to reteach myself instead of using coping mechanisms for how I felt, I decided to slowly start writing and getting into spirituality. I had a group that I was a member of with a lot of my friends nowadays. We're all out of that group, but we learned a lot of things, like to, you know, start writing, channeling, different techniques, drawing, to release all that was going on inside. And as I did this, my first one was when my grandmother passed away when I was about 23, and she was my rock. And so that was the only love that I knew as a child, like understanding, unconditional. And it was just taken away, like she passed suddenly, so it was gone. And so as I started to deal with that and write about it, she was actually the first person I became spiritually connected to and saw. And the first thing she said to me was, the reason why you haven't been able to talk to me is because of your pain and how you've not gone through it. So as I went on, I did a DNA test and all of this for ancestry.com, and I was adopted with no information, and I was in the LA area, and I was raised, had my kids out there, and they were grown now. And so as I did that, I found out I was Native American. I am from the Seneca Nation in Western New York, Western New York, on the Allegheny Res. And so I packed up my stuff and I moved there. So, but as I moved there, knew that I was empathetic. I knew at this time from doing work that I was different, that I held in emotions, I held in, you know. And as I started going down the line and walking with nature, and I was very blessed to be on my reservation at this time, even though it was kind of rough. But I found my birth family, and I was blessed to have both sides of my birth family and generations buried and living in this little town. So as being Native American, I really honestly think a lot of people think you need to be a Native American, or, you know, I've heard all kinds of stories that you need to be a male, that you need to be a man. But as we're learning in spirituality, that your sex here on earth right now does not define who you are, and the person you are does not define who you are. So as I went on doing this, I realized even as a child, it started to come back, and I realized I did a lot of things. Heogis are by nature backwards, which means that we do things oddly, we do things different. I remember always having two different shoes on growing up. I remember always wanting even today I sometimes wear my sweats backwards or my shirt backwards. And it's not like, oh, I'm lazy it feels better that way. And that's just a characteristic of us. But the reason why we do things backwards is the point I'm trying to get to, is that we do this because our way of thinking is, as a Heoki, is we recognize when someone comes to us and has a deep problem. And the first thing we do is we home into that maybe not on purpose. Well, on purpose now, but I didn't always. And that caused a lot of problems back in the day because I would hit a nerve and I would laugh, and I would giggle and make a joke. And then later on, I realized, oh, I hit the nerve really hard, but I kind of laughed, not in a way to make fun of them, but like a way to like, hey, like, I understand your pain and I want to help you get through it, but you have to, instead of being homed in on the negativity, and let's look at the brighter side of it. And so with that, I realized then, even as an adult, and I realized that I had always been this way. And I always struck a nerve, but at the same time, it's also, it's kind of lonely because we do either people come to us, and I've always had people come to me as like, a lot of people just come to me like, hey, I need your help. You know what I mean? And I already know in that tone, in that sense, that they are really hurting. And then I'm blessed to have like a good sense of humor, but at the same time, I'll get in that little crevice of you and just pop it out, and I like to shine a light on it a little bit, but not too bright, and with a sense of like, hey, and I never let anyone think that they ever go through it alone. Never have I left anyone, nor do I ever do. I always check on people, but it's kind of, like even today I was laughing right now, but I did my hair. I don't know if you can see it. I braided one and it has a dark one, and then it has a light one. So we always do like mismatch. We always do like kind of just random stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and it's kind of like oddball, or
feel
just different.
Right. So how do you feel like you being able to see, because of like these stories that you share on Facebook about all these spirits who like show up, how do you feel that fits in with your gift of empathy? Like, do you feel it's connected, or is it something like totally different?
No, I think it has to do with empathy because as a child, I remember as a little child, I grew up in a household that was not spiritual friendly. We were kind of religious, but you know what I mean? We went through the steps, but when we got home behind closed doors, it wasn't what we were doing outside.
Right.
But I remember telling stories and stuff to my family, and I used to dream a lot, and and my mother and my sister finally got to the point where like, we don't want to hear it, we don't want to know about it, just keep it to yourself, because I noticed that it caused a lot of fear in them. And being from our religious background,
Right.
that was considered evil. We've been there lately. Evil, this, that. So, but I remember even as a small child, I would be in my room at night asleep, and the kitchen would be in the other room. And I would hear the doors, the cupboards, the silverware move, the door, and I would just be afraid, and I would pray and pray and pray. And so I prayed, I remember at like 4 years old, I'll never forget, and I begged, God, please don't let them touch me or pop up in my face. That was my thing. Don't touch me, don't pop up in my face. And for a long time, it didn't manifest like that. It stopped. And so it was a lot of my dreams and everything. So as I opened this door to spirituality and getting to know myself and my gifts, even just recently, it's gotten really too much. Like the other night, I was in my bed and I was asleep, and I was on my back, which I don't normally sleep. I usually sleep really tight because I don't like being touched in the middle of the night. And I had 3 fingers touch me on my knee 3 times. And I just jumped up and I was like, oh my gosh, but I do think it's empathy, because I can sit here and I think empathy is a strong thing, and that we kind of underlook a little bit, that it has to do with connecting to the spiritual world, because you can sit here and you can look with your mind all you want, and you can meditate and you'll probably see stuff, but if you really sit with the energy, you can feel things come in, you can feel things come out. I'm very connected to not just with spirits of past, but I connect with animals. I connect with spiritual beings. I even love aliens. I'm very into that. I've connected with them, but it's all through feeling and having that presence. And that's a good thing because that's when shielding and grounding comes in. Because when you start having those feelings and you start knowing those things, you also have to know the players that are coming into your space and your energy, because sometimes not every spirit
Mhm.
is going to be like, hey, I want to help you change the world, and that's not their motive. And then sometimes you have spirits that are like, hey, I am a nervous wreck. Like I had this one spirit and I could all see his head shaking, it was like a real blur and it was really shaky, and his energy made me feel so uncomfortable and I was so stressed with it. And then when I took the time to really shield and ground and watch him, and because he wasn't leaving, I realized he was mentally ill, and like it was just an issue that had happened while he was alive. So we have to be very careful, and that's why it's very important to ground and shield. Very important.
Right. Right. So like I also think, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but sometimes I think souls come to us for us to help them move over to the other side, or just to help resolve, like maybe they had unfinished business and they just need to talk to somebody about it. So I feel like when that happens, that our empathy kind of kicks in and we can feel what they're feeling, right? So that helps us to be able
Yes.
to identify what they're there for, you know. So it's kind of like yesterday my daughter and I were driving to the grocery. So we were driving through like the rural area, and so like she's 10 and she's just starting to come into her spiritual gifts, but she's very passionate about it, and she's starting to see spirits. And so we're driving down the road and she's like, "Mommy, there's a spirit." And I'm like, "Okay, well, who is it?" And she's like, "Well, its name is Jenna." And so I was like driving, but I was trying to tune in, and all of a sudden my chest got super tight and heavy. And then Lily's like, "I think she's here for us to help her cross over." And like that, my whole mind was thinking, I wonder if there had been a wreck somewhere around here or something, and someone named Jenna had died. So we walked through the process of sending any, spirits onto the light. And the next thing you know, she's like, "Mommy, there's just a ton more just came in." But like the cool thing was that
Oh,
her and I, about at the same time, were processing the fact that it was a lost soul needing help over. And then my empathy was able to pick up the chest. So like we can use that as a gift. We can pick our, like, use our empathy to pick up on feelings, to pick up on emotions or physical sensations, right? To use to identify. So like say you're channeling for somebody and someone comes in as a spirit and they're like, "Okay, well, who is it?" And you're like, "Well, it's a man and he shows himself as a grandpa and my heart is like aching, like bursting or something." Then you can say, "Well, it seems like it's a grandpa who maybe died of a heart attack," right? Like your gifts, your empathy put the feelers out and picked
hmm.
up on all of that. And that's how you can identify him. So I think it can be like a really strong way to use our gifts to help identify things.
Oh, totally. And that's also when you get there, that's also starting with your mediumship. When you get those feelings of the chest
Mhm.
and the things like that. And you're very right. So it's all connected, because the empathy, if you didn't have the empathy and start to understand it, you wouldn't get the cues that your spirit guides, and those are like spirit guides that the soul is trying to tell you when your chest hurts or when your throat hurts, or like the other day, what did I do? I go, I can't breathe, and I was talking to someone and I was like, I can't breathe in the throat. I said, what was wrong with the throat? And they're like, oh, they had throat cancer and they had a cough, or something like that.
Oh,
And you're very right. And I think that's beautiful with you and your daughter, that you two can do that, because two heads are better than one, and once you open that door, you can also work together. And I think that's amazing. My sister and I do that a lot too. She's my biological sister, and we're Irish twins, so we're like 11 months apart. And we just found ourselves back in each other's life about 4 years ago. And so we'll do that. We'll drive by, and she'll be like, "What do you feel right now?" And then we'll go on, you know. Um,
Uh-huh.
but it's very true.
Yeah.
It's very true. Like, if you have to start paying attention, and if you're something new and that's something new to you and empathy is new, a good way is to, when you're around someone and you feel those things, start document it. Say, I was around this person and I felt my chest hurt, and that's a good way to start to begin to communicate with your guides and whoever's helping you to learn the message, you know. Like, my roommate is good. She told me the other day, we were
Yeah,
talking about
definitely.
connecting. She's like, "What about my parents? Do you think you you can reach my parents?" And so I just was sitting here and we were watching TV, and I just started, and I go, and all of a sudden I smelled pumpkin pie, and I was like, "Oh God!" And I was like, "This is silly," but I was like, "What is pumpkin pie to do? Have to do with it?" And she goes, "My dad was like a love pie, and like his favorite was pumpkin, and you know." So it gets kind of fun, and spirits, you
Yeah,
never know, and it's very good to be open, and that's when it comes to start believing in your own self, and just, if that's what it comes to, like, it sounds silly, it does sound silly, but it was right on, you know. And it's better to say it and tell the person,
right,
because even if they don't get the message right now, it may come at another time, or they may rethink it, and I'll be like,
right,
yeah, you're right, that I do remember that now.
right. Definitely. Yeah. Okay. So I guess just like in closing, what, let's just share, like you said that you like bring white light in and kind of just like burst out your soul, right? So you just burst out all that energy.
Yes.
You said something about a shield. So like, how do you work with that? Is that what the
Okay,
shield
so
is, or is
that's
it?
been a, yeah, that's been a struggle, like, because I mean, I was not a visual person in the beginning of all this, and so it was a little difficult. I like to also do it, and you don't always have to be a visual person. You know, that's another thing, connecting, because not everyone connects with visuals. They don't connect with, you know, they may connect with emotion like us. They may connect with hearing, smelling, tasting, you know, I've heard some different things, and I was just like, whoa, that's cool. So it's good to examine them all, you know, but I tend to, when my visual is hard, to bring the white light in, and that's what I do. I say a prayer. I begin to say a prayer. I say a prayer to my creator, and I ask him, and I sit with him, because, you know, and I connect with his energy. I feel the warmth, I feel the light, I feel like I feel the tingle, I see sparkles, you know, and when I see that, I call it through the top. Sometimes I have to look up and, you know, I mean, make a visual contact, and I pull it right through my first chakra, and I let it go down all my chakras. And as I do that, I sit there and I look at my hands, and I feel my hands, and I think, and I pull the light through my hands and my fingers and my toes, and I push it through. And as I do that, all the tingling goes through. And as I do that, I see that. And so then also with shielding, I also imagine, like, sometimes it was hard for me too in the beginning. So I started imagining my favorite colors. Like, my favorite color is pink, and I like to be pink, and I like to think that, and you know, my true soul's pink, you know, and doing that and homing in, because
Mhm.
it doesn't have to be one person's way. Like, okay, this needs to be my way. This can be your pink light.
Right.
This can be your sparkly rainbow light. You know what I mean? However you connect to your higher self and your higher, you know, your higher good and your creator, you pull that in, and you know, sometimes it'll come through your fingertips, it'll come through your toes, you know. It's just use your imagination to get the best, you know, to get that feeling going, and you'll know, because you'll feel yourself tingle.
Mm-hmm. Right. Right. I know like some of the tools that I learned in the beginning were mirrors. So like placing a mirror, so like if you know you're getting ready to go be around somebody who you have like a lot of trouble being around, then you just imagine or call in an energetic mirror. And like, so it's between you and the person that they're looking in the mirror. So the mirror's facing away. That has like, so like, even like with people that I've, like they're just in a bad mood and you know, like they're a really good person, but they're just in a bad mood and they're driving you nuts.
It's my
Like I
boss.
put a
My
mirror
boss.
up and so they're seeing themselves and next thing you know, they just turn it right around. They're like, oh gosh, I don't like that feeling, you know? But then also like even every day I've heard of people who just like put a mirror on each side of them so that it's pointing out in every direction so that they have that protection. I've heard of even just the white bubble. These are just like simple ways to start until you find out like right what works the best for you, right?
Yes. But the Heoki mirror, I'll take that. Let me take that real quick before we go off. We are mirrors, and that's a little different, like we're all mirrors, but we work really well. We work heavily with mirrors. So I noticed that if someone's coming up to me and they're like really mean and like belittling me, and I suddenly think instead of, my first reaction, is like, what did I do, And I realized that's true. I do a mirror shielding a lot because like I have a very toxic boss. Like every minute he's looking at his watch and it's like, where you been? It's like 5 minutes, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And I was really taken to offense of that. So I just when I shield, I visualize my whole body as a mirror. Like I'm wearing like a cape suit, almost like a superhero.
Oh,
And I imagine like, okay, this is how I look and it's skin tight on me and it's just reflecting everything off. And that's true because we have to reflect it. Like that's me too. I get like a superhero thing going when I do my shields because I was like, no one's gonna touch me. I look great today, and a lot of positive one for the a lot of the positive
right,
affirmations of selfness is very important when you're using your mirrors, But no, mirrors are
right.
very important. I don't use them all the time, but I do recommend that use them when you're dealing with negative and negative people. And let's remember that they're not enemies and they're not bad people. That's just a reflection of their unworked self-healing and their traumas coming out. So we always have to remember that because it's hard when you're in that moment and it's coming at you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So, okay, well, is there anything else you want to share before we go ahead and end the podcast?
No, if anyone's looking for me, they can find me on Facebook, Noelle Fransisco, and I am the Mystic Eagle of Divination and Spiritual Healings also on Facebook. That's my page. But I love you, Nell. You're my number one girl. I look forward to you all the time, and through my empathy and the things that I've had, Nell is the one person that has always helped me, right there find the answer. And I am just thankful that you wanted to interview me, and thank you. It's awesome. You really helped me out.
Yeah, so I've had so much fun doing this. Now, what I think we'll do, if you're okay, is I'm going to go ahead. I'll end the podcast section, but then if we can take a couple minutes and see if the people that are go on live would like to ask some questions. Is that okay?
No, of course. I love it.
Okay. So thank you everybody for joining Galactic Guidance and Noelle Fransisco and I as we talked about empathy. You can catch us next week. We'll be doing a podcast about a spirit animal. I haven't decided which one yet, but I'm really excited about that. So thanks everyone for joining us and we will catch you later.